Good morning. I'm Christy, and I am your substitute service leader today. I'm substituting for Susie Lockwood, who woke up this morning and found her internet was not working. So this service was planned by her. So if you have a brief announcement to share, please raise your real or virtual hand, or you can put it in chat and I'll read it. Russ, are you raising your hand?
I am. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Yes, I have two announcements to make. One is that this evening at 7 o'clock, we're having another one of our social justice lecture series. This evening it'll be Dr. Christy Burns, who is the chairperson of the Lake County Board of Education. And so I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest in that. The other thing that I need to announce is September 6th, we will have the presentation of the budget for all of our members and friends. So be sure to tune in for that. The budget is what is the lifeline of our congregation. So if you want to know where we're going, what we're spending, and you wish to donate, you will have opportunity to do that as you will today. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else with an announcement?
Jane?
Okay. Hi, good morning, everybody. I just wanted to thank everyone for dropping off donations for Lake Care and Open Door. And our next drop off is going to be September 10th. I'll have that in the newsletter, but we're going to move it up a half an hour, so it'll be 11:30 to 12:30. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of you on that day. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay, well, I have a few announcements. First of all, please keep yourself muted during our service, but don't forget that following the service, Diana Reed will be leading a time of discussion, and it's a time of connection and a time that allows us to come together and discuss all the things that each of us, all things that you want to talk about, and see each other's smiling faces. At least people that have a camera on their computer. Also, the time of joys and concerns or sorrows has been moved back into the middle of the service where we had it when we were in the building. And again, in order to share a joy or concern, when we get to that, you will raise your hand, invited to share your joy or concern with the community. And if anyone wishes to reply to someone with a joy or concern, please wait until the discussion time at the end of the service. Thank you. And one more announcement, I want to remind everyone that UUCLC is sponsoring the Lake County Solar Co-op, and you can find out information about that in the Sunday service bulletin attached to where you got the link for this service, and it's called Go Solar. And we are trying to get actually 100 people now in Lake and Sumter counties to join together to get a discount on putting solar on your home. And joining the co-op is no obligation. So you can just do that and get a lot of information and a lot of support in working on getting solar for your home. This past week has been one full of tragedies, bringing with it heartbreak, anger, fear, anxiety, outrage from coast to coast of our beautiful land. raging fires in the West Coast, destructive hurricanes tearing through the Gulf Coast, murders in our streets, rioting and looting of our cities, all wrapped up with the bow of a pandemic. Not to mention a presidential race that will determine the fate of our democracy. My opening words today is a prayer by Margaret Weiss that addresses those destructive forces other than those of nature. Please close your eyes, take a breath, and pray with me, or send healing, loving thoughts out into the universe. Spirit of life, our hearts are weary and tired and are breaking. Our hearts are stretching as they are pulled and pushed, bruised and battered by all the suffering and brokenness and pain. Our ears are ringing with harsh words, with yelling, with gunfire that echoes in our streets and takes lives of innocents without cause. They're ringing with the affirmation that Black Lives Matter again and again until this idea is manifested in our legislation and our communities and our hearts. We have heard stories of equality and justice, but our eyes burn from the instances of inequality, racism, and injustice that illustrate we are still far from where we hope to be. Our mouths speak words of hope, of courage, of truth, and at times we find that words do no justice to the brokenness that feels too big. Our bodies, our collective bodies, built for lifting one another up and built for holding each other in love, they're being used against one another as weapons, and the ammunition is hatred and fear. Spirit of life and love, in this time of dissonance, in this sacred time of urgency, to speak for those who cannot speak for themselves, help us to find our voice. Help us to see beyond this brokenness to a time of healing and true community. Help us to remember that the only journey toward healing is one that is paved through humility and acceptance of responsibility and counteracting complacency. Ours is not a solitary journey, but one taken together, bolstered by deep listening and deeply rooted in love. May we find the strength needed for the journey here in this place. And in all places where people gather for love, for humanity, and for justice. I just have to say amen.
Okay.
Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Lake County. We are a faith built on the foundation of freedom, reason, and tolerance, a faith sustained by acts of kindness and justice, a faith that envisions a world flourishing with equality for all people and beings, a faith that demands the living out of goodness, a faith that requires thoughtfulness, and a faith of wholeness, a faith of love. All are welcome here. And I am so honored to welcome back our very special guest speaker, Imam Sykes. Imam hails from North Carolina and was preparing for a life of Christian ministry after spending 6 years in South Africa working to end apartheid. In 1987, he embraced Islam, and Imam Sykes is president and founder of the Islamic Society, leading American Muslims, and speaks at colleges and public schools, churches, and synagogues, addressing the misconceptions of Islam. He celebrates diversity and strives to build bridges of peace, dialogue, and understanding whereby all come together on common ground in pursuit of peace, freedom, and justice for all. Also, this is a time for us to welcome any first-time or second or third-time visitors who would, we invite to introduce yourself if you wish to. Please raise your hand and you will magically appear. And I think you have to will have to mute yourself when you magically appear. Or you can introduce yourself in chat, or maybe wait till next time. But welcome to all. So is there anybody who would like to introduce themselves or their guest? Okay, I see no one.
I'm Sylvia. I'm a friend of Diana Reed. I'm from New York.
Welcome, Sylvia. We're glad you joined us today. Anybody else? Well, welcome everyone. We will now light our chalice, followed by singing Spirit of Life. So join me at home if you have your own chalice or candle. Universal mystery, guide us away from the desire to shine light in all corners. Teach us to embrace the night, for without the darkness, we would never see the stars.
Spirit of
of silent reflection, being mindful of what we have heard here this morning and the world around us. Find a comfortable position, take a big breath, close your eyes, and listen to the beautiful flute of Pete Condi. Please join me now in reciting our congregational covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now, with great honor, here is Imam Sykes.
Peace and blessings be upon you all. I am so honored to be with you again. And today I'm talking about the spiritual perspective of darkness, and perhaps I could say the Islamic paradigm of darkness. So when the Quran addresses darkness, there is deep interdimensional spiritual meaning. We find in the second chapter of the Holy Quran, verse 20, a beautiful verse. The lightning well nigh takes away their sight. They are at first blinded by the light, like catharsis. Whenever it gives them light, they advance therein, and whenever darkness falls around them, they stand still, perhaps to regroup. In this example, people can only move when they can see. Otherwise, they stumble around. We also find the analogy of night and day in the Quran. In chapter 10, verse 24, gives us a parable that alludes to the similitude of life of this world, its glitter and the swiftness of its passage, which is like night and day. Sunlight produces food which we quickly devour into our deep, dark stomachs. Those who look inside the dark cavities of life and reflect take great lessons in self-awareness and personal actualization. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "To know yourself is to know God." Chapter 24, verse 40 of the Quran says, "Or they are like darknesses within an unfathomable sea, which is covered by waves upon which are waves, over which are clouds, darknesses, some of them upon others. When one puts out his or her hand therein, he or she can hardly see. And if he or she to whom God has not granted light for him or her, there is no light." So even though the Quran was speaking about this 1400 years ago, the Scandinavian mariners set forth the theory of oceans underneath waves in 1900. Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, lived in the desert and would not have known this. The marriage of darkness and light intrigues me, and to always see darkness as bad doesn't seem spiritually sound to me. Out of the darkness of my life's traumas, I now live in a world filled with light, love, joy, and happiness. My tests are now testimonies. My messes are now messages, and my trials are a triumph. My pain has been turned into purpose. This verse points out the ocean's internal and superficial waves. The most roaring and horrible waves are those surreptitiously underneath the oceans. Just as ships of the past voyaging to the North Pole encountered grave difficulties because of the ocean's internal waves, so do we humans struggle with the residue of the traumas we experience in life buried deep within us. Although hidden from physical sight, the interior of the ocean is as turbulent as the surface waves that knock us down. Internal waves in the ocean are believed to be responsible for a great deal of danger and damage. They have been known to displace oil platforms as much as 200 meters in the horizontal direction and 10 meters in the vertical direction. We know that sunlight is weakened underneath the ocean because of the refraction and absorption of light. In the depths of 1,000 meters, there scarcely is a light. On a cloudy day, it is even worse. Doesn't that sound familiar? Submarines allowed us to go deeper than the pearl divers. Novice divers would probably feel quite intoxicated at 30 or 40 meters in the ocean. There is little light or sound there. Reminds me perhaps of the womb, that saline solution that we grow in. Maybe we see a little pink light from our mom's bellies. The underground, under-ocean world is a mirror of life below the surface, and I believe in this darkness is healing and great vision. It was in the darkness of the cave known as Hira that Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, received the first revelation from God. The Quran points out in chapter 35, verses 19 and 20, "For thus it is, the blind and the seeing are not equal, nor are the depths of darkness and the light." Muslims believe there is one true light, and it is from the Creator. The Creator brings them out of darkness into light, according to chapter 2 of the Holy Quran, verse 257. Light shall shine out of darkness. Chapter 13, verse 11 says, God does not change a soul or the conditions of souls until they change what is hid in the darkness within themselves. The term darkness in all the verses of the Quran uses plural form, interestingly enough. This shows that there are different levels or different types of darkness. On the other hand, nur, light in Arabic, is not plural. The reason behind this is that there is only one true and one real light. In order to benefit from the light of sun, there is only one way: to remove any barrier, the way of the sun's light. But there are many ways to make a place dark. One can close their eyes, put a handkerchief over their eyes, put curtains up, put blinds up, or do other actions that make them not see the light. They can even go into denial, spiritual blindness, and deafness. In Islam, the soul enters the fetus at 120 days in gestation, and humans receive spiritual light. At birth, humans are introduced to physical light. This first is the initial light that the Creator gives everyone. The light of the creation of God is called fitra, natural inclination. The first of the initial light that God gives everyone, the light of creation of God. This light, which is the light of reason and conscience, is and will remain in all of us. Without this light, no one can ever take a step forward. We come from the soul world, and that is where we will all return. We are all spiritual creatures on a spiritual journey in this physical world. The believers are those who strengthen this light and go to the brighter stations. They distance themselves from darkness and go towards the absolute light, which is the Creator. Darkness and the light are created to provide a vital service to mankind and other creatures, such as animals that are nocturnal beings. It provides balance. We need both. We need light and dark, and most of us can't sleep in the light. And plants need photosynthesis, and they are brought into existence as a result of something else, such as the sun and the moon. Many people prefer to escape deep loss and to avoid hard and challenging times. Yet the dark has given me gifts that are immeasurably deep. It was because I wrestled with the dark that I learned to see beyond what was happening on the surface of my life and grew to understand that everything is more than it appears to be. In time, I knew experientially that the dark is not the absence of the light. Light moves within the darkness at great depth. With this realization came a glimpse of the inordinate beauty and power just beyond physical sight. The experience of darkness is not reserved for a single crushing or defining event. We encounter darkness in many challenges that arise within our life. Some are great and some are small, but each hold the same potential to alter the way we look at ourselves and the way we think about and frame our human experience and journey. Without darkness, we wouldn't be able to see the light that is ahead. Carl Jung said, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. From Tibet to India to the Amazon, spiritual traditions around the world have used darkroom techniques. Ancient Egyptians and Mayans practiced a form of dark retreat as well, traditionally lasting 10 days. Holy men would enter into the center of their respective pyramids, completely removed from light and sound, and have visions of the universe. The catacombs and the underground network of tunnels of the first Christians in Rome and many other places, such as the pyramids of Egyptians, might have been used as places for dark retreats as well. In Tibet and India, dark retreats were practiced in mountainside caves. Stimulating spiritual perception means examining what is in the dark. Domains of insight are in the dark, and is perhaps the key to personal transformation. And we'll look at 8 domains of transformation and integration today. A broken soul has to look into the darkness, the unconscious, to find its authentic, organic self. The Quran speaks to 3 stages of development within the human soul. The first is the unconscious soul that is in the dark in terms of their awareness. The second stage refers to the conscious soul, and the third is the soul at rest because they embraced what was in the darkness of their unconsciousness. They embraced it and came to peace with it. These 8 rivers of integration, gifts and blessings that are brought out of darkness. The integration of consciousness is necessary for awareness, for light. We search in the darkness of our subconscious to find our true, authentic, organic selves. Through soul searching, we discover to recover. We gather light on a newly coherent sense of our life story. Our left and right brains are in the dark, but they have complementary functions. In the linkage between the sides is blocked. If the linkage between the sides is blocked in darkness, one side may dominate, and we can lose the creativity, richness, and complexity that works from both sides working together. As a therapist, I call this horizontal integration. Finding in the darkness integration of right-left brain can give us a new coherent sense of our life story and deeper insights into the nonverbal world of ourselves and others. If we are spiritually unbalanced and one side dominates, we are only operating at 50% capacity, half in the dark. Our nervous system is in the dark. Spinal cords are hidden in our back. When we ignore what our senses and bodily sensations are telling us, we live a life of flattened feelings and perception. Bringing our sensations out of darkness into awareness enables intuition to blossom and can sometimes offer life-saving information. And I call this vertical integration, as the backbone is vertical. We process and encode our experiences in layers of memory. The first layer, implicit memory, begins in the womb, in darkness, and predominates throughout our early years. From our emotions, perceptions, actions, and body sensations, we create mental models that shape our expectations about the world and how it works. All of this occurs without effort or intention. And our implicit mental models that are often in the darkness, unawareness, can continue to shape how we act without our awareness or consciousness. The puzzle pieces of our implicit memories of the past that were in darkness are later assembled into explicit memories, the factual and autobiographical information of which we are aware. Contemplation is about bringing something that is in the darkness into light. Let me ponder and reflect that I might see that which I have not seen. The more we shine the searchlight for the free-floating puzzle pieces of the past, the implicit memories, and allow them to become explicit, the more we free ourselves to live fully in the present and have new choices about how we see our lives. And I refer to this as memory integration. And then there's narrative integration. And that is when we make sense of our lives by creating stories that weave our left hemisphere's narrative function and the autobiographical memory storage of our right hemisphere. Research has revealed that the best predictor of the security of children's attachment to us is our ability to narrate the story of our own childhood in a coherent fashion. By detecting those blockages to narrate integration and then doing the necessary work to overcome them, we can free ourselves and ultimately our children from cross-generational patterns we want to avoid creating. Through narrative integration, we are able to make sense of our lives in a deep, integrated manner, and what emerges is coherent narrative of our life. We all experience distinct states of being that embody our fundamental drives and needs: closeness and solitude, autonomy and independence, caregiving and mastery. These states sometimes conflict with one another, sometimes painfully and confusingly. Looking into that darkness permits us to embrace these states as healthy dimensions of a layered life, instead of parts of ourselves that we need to reject or suppress or put into darkness in order to try to achieve inner stability. With state integration, we can move beyond past patterns of adaptation and denial, darkness, to become open, to shed light on our needs, and be able to meet them in different ways at different times. The key to integration is to embrace these distinctions rather than deny their existence and leave them in darkness. Interpersonal integration is the we of well-being. Our resonance circuits enable us to feel the internal world within others, while they in turn weave us into that inner world that is in darkness and carry us with them even when we're not together. Looking into those things that are in the dark, those things not usually seen, to find help us to see how past adaptations are restricting current relationships, and then allows us to open ourselves safely to others. This allows us to connect more intimately in our relationships while still remaining our own organic and authentic sense of identity and freedom. By personal integration, we can love and be loved without giving up ourselves. As a marriage and family therapist, I see how couples lost in confusion and misunderstanding, darkness, struggle with rigid patterns of defense, are prone to outbursts of delusionment, darkness, can actually learn how to detect their brainstem-driven states of reactivity and move their nervous system toward the receptive state necessary for true true and lasting connection. Indeed, looking into the darkness, that which we are unconscious of has the propensity to guide us back to a life of passion and compassion. There are profound challenges presented to us in the prefrontal cortex, which gives us both a sense of time and ability, apparently unique among animals, to foresee that death will undo us and those we love. Obsessive compulsive disorders reveals how hardwired survival drives that live much of the time in darkness seeks control, sometimes to the point of paralyzing and terrorizing us. Integrating what was in the dark place, temporal integration, enables us to live with more ease and to find comforting connections in the face of uncertainty. Michelangelo is supposed to have said that his task as a sculptor was to liberate the figure from the stone. Cognitive dissonance takes place when we don't behave according to what we believe. Confusing, inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes cause us to experience psychological and spiritual stress. Today, I invite you into a world of darkness, layers of darkness where many of life's treasures and healings are. And I encourage you to investigate and to embrace the mysteries, the miracles hidden in that darkness. I want to say to all of you that I love you as my fellow earth brothers and sisters, and my prayers are with you at this time that we're going through. And I also have a strong intention and look forward to being with you again. Peace and blessings be upon you all. With you again. And today
We will now incorporate the Imam's vision about the connection of all different religions with our hymn, "There's Room at the Table for Everyone."
Let our hearts not be hardened to those living on the margins. There is a room at the table for everyone. This is where it all begins. This is how we gather in. There is room at the table for everyone. Too long we have wandered, burdened and undone, but there is room at the table for everyone. Let us sing the new world in. This is how it all begins. There is a room at the table for everyone. There is room for us all. No gift is too small. There is room at the table for everyone. There's enough if we share. Come on, pull up a chair. There is room at the table for everyone. No matter who you are, no matter where you're from, there is room at the table for everyone. Here and now we can be the beloved community. There is room at the table for everyone. There is room for us all. No gift is too small. There is room at the table for everyone. There's enough if we share. Come on. faces I'll be gathering for everyone.
Our closing words today are by Imam Sykes.
I've been asked to give some closing words for my speech today, and I would like to leave you with this. Rumi said, "If everything around you seems dark, look again. You might be the light." Remember that in your darkest hour, and you will always be able to turn to the light. Turn on the light, your light. You are the darkness and the light. The light is the awakened part of you. Light streams toward you from all things. Rumi said all people, all permutations of good, evil, thought, passion. The lamps are different, but the light is the same. Our energy, one light mind, endless, emanating all things. Thank you.
Well, let us help to turn on the light in our church and with our church family. We are so fortunate to have our UU family to support each and every one of us. And in order to continue our virtual services and to protect our beautiful building, which will be ready for our eventual return, we ask for whatever financial support you can provide today. There are multiple ways to do this. If you click on the chat, oh, there it is. There are some ways to do this. So you can write an old-fashioned check and mail it in the mail. And you can also click on things in the website and take a look at all this information on different ways to donate electronically or by writing a check. Thank you for your donations today. Our time in this space may have ended, but our connection to each other and this community remains. Together, may we walk the path of justice, speak words of love, live the selfless deed, trod gently upon the earth, and fill the world with compassion until we meet again. May you see the light within you. And now it is time to move to our discussion. You may want to switch to gallery view so you can see everybody or part of us at a time. And Diana Reed will be leading the discussion today.
Thank you so much, Christy. That was great. You did such a great job at such short notice. I think you're quite amazing. So now we have a time for open discussion. I'd just like to again remind people to please listen carefully to what everybody's saying. Try to refrain from raising your hand until the person has stopped speaking. everybody will have a time to talk. We're not time limited, so we can do what we want. All right, we may have some comments or contributions to make about the Imam's sermon, or we can talk about anything we want that comes to our mind. Susie Lockwood is frantically raising her hand. What's the problem?
First, am I unmuted? No.
Yes, you are.
I want to thank Christy from the bottom of my heart. I just have to tell the little story because both my boys are here. One is dealing with something, so I was helping him deal. So he knows how hard in and out that, and Christy knows it, to do this and put it all together and practice and practice. And when I got up this morning, they were both, my sons were sitting in the living room waiting for me because they knew the internet was out and they were afraid to tell me because they knew how hard I worked. My heart sank. I ran all over the place. They were trying to call CenturyLink. CenturyLink said, it's closed, call back later. And you couldn't even get to repair or whatever. So I just popped in my head that not accidentally, but that I email myself the service so I can print it. Otherwise, she wouldn't have had anything this morning. So I was able to do that. I didn't hear it, and I know how hard it is to read and do someone else's words. I know that. I know how difficult it is. I'm so curious to see it on YouTube because Christy, you are an angel, and because I felt extra bad because I was the one that brought Imam to us. So I was like, wow. Bless all of you. And thank you so much. And I did finally get in. It came on and I caught Imam's, and he just mesmerizes me. I thought he was wonderful. I really thought he was wonderful. So I thank you all. I missed you. I hope you missed me. But Christy's a really good replacement. So now I'm out of breath. I think I'm going back to bed. I love you all. Thank you, Diana. Thank you. Thank you all. I'm done.
I wanted to welcome my friend Sylvia, but I think she's departed from us. Sylvia, are you still here? I can't see you.
Are we supposed to pause? Are we supposed to pause after I talk?
No. Yeah. Mute yourself again.
Mute me. There we go. Thank you.
Please keep ourselves. Yeah, we are. Okay. Please keep yourself muted when you're not talking. Thank you, Susie. Yeah, I think my friend Sylvia's gone. She's from the Universalist Church in Albion, New York. Anyway, so does anyone else have any comments that they would like to make about the service or anything else? Yes, I see Lois. Go ahead, Lois, unmute yourself. You're still muted, Lois.
I know, just a second, honey. Is there a way down in the bar to undo that?
We can hear you.
You're unmuted now.
Oh, okay.
You can go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you for your patience. Imam, there has been much tragedy in my life, and I have family that surrounds itself by people that are trying to survive tragedy. My daughter is the clinical social worker trying to do the mending work at Stoneman Douglas. Besides the 17 that were killed since then, over 50 people have committed suicide that had direct relationship to the loss of their friends and their family. the darkness really did consume them. My son passed away almost 2 months ago. He could not take the darkness anymore. He was the squad leader for the investigation of the murders at the Mandalay slaughter, and the horrors would never leave his mind. He said, "Mom, I can't stop seeing the bodies. I can't stop the phones from ringing." And he knew he was in trouble and sought help. The darkness won. 2 months ago, he took a revolver to his head and pulled a trigger. I am wondering, on a spiritual level, I think they were all seeking light, and they didn't find it within the living time, and they were hoping that an alternative dimension would give them peace. And I just wonder what your concept is when people don't find the light here. And if they are seeking light in another dimension, in another living space, whether that is, it sounds kind of trite, whether that even makes sense to you. It makes sense to me and gives me a little bit of comfort that sometimes the living time is not the place that's going to get you the light. And leaving this living time in this dimension is where you're going to find it. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't believe the Imam is here. His message was taped.
That's too bad.
If you are addressing him, yes, but there may be someone else here that could speak to that.
Those are very profound thoughts that really require some contemplation. Carol has some thoughts. Go ahead, Carol.
I would only suggest, Lois, a book called Dying to be Free.